This is the Other 22 Hours podcast.
Hey, and welcome to this week's episode of the Other 22 Hours podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Shafer-Haiss.
And I'm your other host, Michaela Anne, and we are in the second year of the podcast. No signs of slowing down. Really grateful that you guys are still with us.
Yeah, it takes a lot to put on even a small show like ours. The fact that you guys are here means a lot to us. And if you've heard an episode before, you know we say things like this show is for our community, from our community. And so as our community, we have a couple asks for you to continue the show down the road. They are basically subscribe to another thing, and share. So with that, the easiest, quickest thing is please right now just subscribe on your listening platform of choice. It's a great way for somebody that's just browsing our show to know that people actually listen and it's worth 45 minutes of their time. The second thing, share, would be to just share your favorite episode with somebody that doesn't know what this show is about and might benefit from it. Word of mouth is the best way to get more listeners, and the more listeners we have, the more guests we can have, and it turns into a feedback loop like that. And lastly, the second subscribe would be our Patreon. It costs money to make a podcast, and streaming podcasts pays absolutely $0. So with that, we have a Patreon community with all the normal Patreon things. What's cool about ours is it is a ever-growing, ever-breathing organism. It's changing all the time. We have generally one price for everything. Now, into the future, it's about the cost of a nice coffee every month. If that intrigues you, there's more about that in the show notes below.
Yeah, and one of the things we pride ourselves on for this podcast is that we are not music journalists. We are musicians ourselves. So instead of thinking of these as interviews, we think of these as conversations that we would have if we were just sitting around the dinner table and we're able to relate on the shared experiences of the honest realities of what it is to build a lifelong career around your art.
And those realities, as we all know, is that it's absolutely crazy thing to do. Most of the things in this industry are completely out of our control. And so we focus our conversations on what is within our control, being our mindsets and headspace and the tools that we found to stay sane while we are building this career around our art. And we've distilled all of that down to the thesis statement. What do you do to create sustainability in your life so that you can sustain your creativity? And today we got to ask that question of Madi Diaz.
Madi Diaz is an incredible singer-songwriter. She is based in Nashville, but originally from Pennsylvania. She's also a personal friend, so this was especially a fun one. I think we laughed quite a bit. But Maddie, she's been at it a long time. We addressed this, and she has had an incredible last few years, and we talk about what it takes to stay in the game and stay committed and weather all sorts of ups and downs. We didn't even talk about all of her highlights because we typically don't talk about the career stuff, but Maddie has written songs for people like Maren Morris, Little Big Town, Kesha. She has toured opening for people like Kacey Musgraves, My Morning Jacket, Waxahatchee, Harry Styles, and then was invited to join Harry Styles' band. She's done a lot of crazy cool stuff.
But it hasn't always been crazy cool stuff. Mm-hmm. She's been at it for a long time. She has a great sentence where she says that her career is a cacophony of almosts, which is an amazing sentence. But it's so true for so many of us. Those of you who are new to the Madi Diaz world might think, wow, it's just been great for her. And, you know, it's the thing that you hear all the time. And it's like overnight sensation, 10 years in the making. We talk about that. We talk about persistence. We talk about how having gratitude can be a difficult thing sometimes.
Yeah, having gratitude for even the thing that maybe you really wish wasn't even in your life and the growth that happens in that. It's a really beautiful and fun conversation. So without further ado, here is our conversation with Madi Diaz. If we had constant video and photos of ourselves doing the thing that we're told we have to do of like making videos and it looks so dumb.
Yeah.
Like your videos look great that you make, but if we had a video of you making your video, it's just embarrassing.
Oh no, like let's talk about the other 22 hours, 21 of those hours. I'm like,
yeah.
Yep. Is that right? Yeah. And then you film the thing and watch back and
about here.
Man, my favorite thing was, this was like early in the pandemic. It would have been April when we still thought it was like, oh, it'll be a couple weeks and we'll get back to it at school. Some friends of mine and I got together and made like this like telethon thing. It was a fundraiser for Music Cares. And so we got like a bunch of people to send videos of them playing, you know, way before that was a thing. John Oates was part of it, and his performance looked amazing. He was like in his beautiful house, home studio with like a bookcase behind him, and it looked awesome. And then they sent like another camera angle of like somebody holding like a handheld walking around. And in that one, you would see in moments his camera was just like a stepladder with some books and his phone leaning against it.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's awesome.
That's my dude. That's my dude. That's my dude. Honestly,
great.
like when they were like, we're sending you a tripod, I was like, but you don't like me balancing it on like 5,000 candles and like that hairbrush and like that jar, that empty jar that used to, or like the can of beans.
Who is we? Is this your management?
Yeah.
Okay. Or
just
they.
The proverbial, like the
They're
powers.
sending me.
The internet was enraged with my can of bean prop. The internet was like, we need to do something about this.
Yeah, your fans
me.
actually started a GoFundMe for a tripod for you.
Send help. Send aid.
Oh, man.
Hey, guys.
Okay, well, hi.
Good to see you.
Thanks for being on the other 22 hours.
Here I am.
It's always a little funny when our friends are on. Like, I guess that's kind of how we started this. But now we've been so deep into it that we have like people that we don't know. So
Right. Or
it's
like acquaintances.
Yeah, switching into like friends in real life.
We're just
But we're
vibing.
going to talk about stuff that maybe we haven't talked about. So anyways, you're home right now.
Right now. Yeah.
And you haven't been home that much this year, right?
No, I'm leaving tomorrow morning. Like, I feel like no joke, in the last 3 days was like, I'm getting the hang of this home thing. And now I'm packing my suitcase and doing my best to not like just disassociate while I'm trying to find enough socks to make it through whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good place to jump in if you feel comfortable. On a personal side, you shared over the past some years how touring is not your favorite thing, but it's such a necessary thing. And how are you feeling now that like it's such a predominant thing in your life the last couple of years?
You know what's crazy is that somewhere around my birthday, mid-May, it was like the week before my birthday, something shifted on like a really weird, profoundly bottom of my feet soul level where I was like, oh shit, I think I like this. I might even go as far to saying like, I might love it right now, which is totally ridiculous. And I'm also just like, are you so survival mode? You're just tricking yourself into thinking that you love it. This is what you're doing. And you're just like power of positive thinking into, But I don't know what happened, but like the shows have been feeling really good. I've been feeling really steady and really enjoying even like when my ears get fuzzy or like, there's like a weird connection from monitor lands to ear land or like my pedals stop working for magically no reason. Even all of that stuff, it's such a trip and it's so funny and it's like such a weird thing that this is the job. And I've been enjoying it rather than being like, God, and then I have to go out into the world and like deal with it.
But do you think it's like the condition of your touring has improved the last few years? Has that impacted your relationship to it? No?
No. I wouldn't say that the condition of my touring has changed. I think I've worked really hard on myself and like how I can physically withstand what my kind of touring is. I wasn't sleeping very well and like I've been able to work on the sleep thing and solve the sleep problem. A lot of like crazy dietary stuff. You guys know, like eating out there and physically being out there is exhausting. And like, when I tour and I'm headlining things, it's me and my drummer who also plays bass, who also sings, our tour manager, who's also a sound guy, who's also setting up merch. You know what I mean? It's like absolutely grueling and insane. We all share driving and we're all getting the same amount of fuel and energy and sleep. And we're all trying to do this much with this much.
And that doesn't feel different than like, for instance, when you're touring with Harry Styles or...
Well,
like that's what I mean. That's what I mean by conditions. Your birthday, you were out with Kacey Musgraves. So like when you have nicer accommodations and travel, does that make it more enjoyable?
You know what's funny? I was thinking about this when I was out with Harry. The band and I would talk about this a lot. The stress levels are so different. It's not like my personal project. So like that in itself is different. I'm just in the band, but I'm like still in the band. I don't want to drop the ball for him. And like, we don't want to drop the ball for each other. And there are like 80,000 people versus like, 600. So it's like a very different stress level thing. So it's like, I don't want to fuck up for 600 people versus I don't want to fuck up for 80,000 people. And then like I'm touring in a Sprinter van versus, we stay in like nice hotels. The conditions have to be what they are for those circumstances to make sense even. I stay at the Holiday Inn when I'm traveling for myself. If we were like playing with Harry Styles at the Holiday Inn, it would be hard.
With the stakes, the stakes being high.
Oh, I was like, the edibles, I was like, I know about the bagged hard-boiled eggs. I didn't know Holiday Inn had steaks.
Tell me more.
What Holiday Inn are you staying at?
Yeah, with like the steaks are pretty good at the Holiday Inn though.
Yeah, the key is to keep it in the wrapper when you put it in the microwave.
Oh, gross. That with a bagged
Keep the juices.
hard-boiled egg.
Dude.
That and like the packaged bag of tuna. It's like Holiday Inn surf and turf.
God.
It's nice.
Let's go.
The bagged tuna.
Holiday Inn surf and turf. That is beautiful.
I remember one of the very first tours I went on was with Annie Lynch, and we, for some reason, were like, bagged tuna would be a great idea. Like, because
it doesn't take much space.
Yeah, you could just squeeze it out onto some crackers, and that fucking bag of tuna just hung around on the bottom of the car like for so long. We're like, no one's gonna eat this bag of tuna, right? Because we're gonna get sick.
A few years ago, you remember I had my can of sardines in my fanny pack when we went on our lady hike, and the crackers, and you're like, weird. And I was like, protein. That's some road dog shit. Bagged tuna, hard boiled.
Are you cracking cans of sardines in the van?
I'm not allowed to do it in a moving vehicle.
Yeah.
Sounds like there's a story behind that one.
That's like a group rule. Also, like, I am just not a graceful human being. And like, I will just be wearing whatever it is. Everything.
I wanted to go back to what you were saying about your ears go out, having your pedals go out. The technical annoyances that happen every day when you're on the road. Do you think like kind of letting that slide has to do with the amount that you're touring right now?
I mean, for sure. It's also just like, I'm 38. I've been doing it for like 16, 17 years at this point. I'm pretty sure almost everything that can happen has happened, even down to when I was opening for one of Harry Styles' show at Wembley last year. I got through my first song, and literally right after my first song, there was this giant fry in the PA, and I heard in my ears, "Oh, I'm so sorry, Maddie, darling. I'm going to have to pull you from stage. We're having a technical difficulty." So they pulled me from stage in front of like the whole thing. And I was off stage for 10 minutes because they had just like lost a connection between the PA and the mixing board. Like every single night he had like a different person open for him for his 4 nights. So I was the first. I was just like, yeah, it's fine. Like, I'll take it. I'm the guinea pig. I don't know why this isn't hitting me, but it just like didn't really hit me until like after the fact. That could have been like a major meltdown for me if that were like 10, 15 years ago. But at that moment, I was just par for the course.
Wow. That's amazing. And then you, I assume, got to play your full set after that.
I did, which was so nice. We were standing backstage and his managers were around, and I said to them, I was holding up my set list and I was like, I can cut 2 songs, and they were just like, no, we're so happy, like the place is filling up and we just wanted more people to see you, don't worry about it.
Oh,
and they were so kind that I got to get back on and just play my set. And I kind of was definitely like out of my body a little bit. I was just kind of like in very like execute performative mode. But his team is just so wonderful. And like even when I got off stage afterwards, they were just like, man, we know a lot of people that would have probably just been like, all right, I played my one song and y'all just take it. Let's just throw a DJ on.
Well, that's also a testament in an industry that's so obsessed with like youth and everything happening really young. The value in big opportunities coming when you're seasoned, when you have a lot of experience and are not super green, getting that moment after doing this for 15 years versus getting that moment when you were like 20 years old, I think is a cool thing.
I can't say that I always am so cool about things. I had the opportunity to play Fallon at the top of the year on the day of the record release, and that was a total out-of-body experience. I think the week up to it, because it was in front of me and because you're putting out a record, there's so many things that are building up to this moment, and it probably went about as well as it could have given everything that was around it. But there are definitely moments where I'm always going to wish that I had done better.
Yeah.
Of course. Are there things that you have found through all these experiences that help you get to a spot to be able to step into one of these objectively stressful, high pressure, high stakes situations and be able to show up as you? Because anybody that's heard any of your songs knows it's not just like, I'm just going to go up here and sing a song. Like there's some digging that's involved to sing and play those songs. Are there things that you do beforehand to get inside yourself?
I think I'm just really trying to enjoy every single time I step on stage. Lately, I've really been in like a big gratitude space. I really try to like drink in the sound check. Whatever kind of day I've had, there are too many things going on. You can't address everything. Something is falling apart. This person has been trying to get a hold of you for like 2 weeks, or like your family is pissed off at you for whatever reason. There's sometimes there are just like 5 million things going on. And I really try to still go like, I still love singing. It feels so good in my body energetically. I'm so lucky to be able to like use this moment as an outlet for whatever emotion it is that I'm feeling in that present moment. That really locks me into my gratitude, and that really locks me into being present on stage. I have so much more forgiveness for myself. I don't know, when like something fucks up, there's so much more humor around it than it used to be, instead of this total panic, like fear of too much vulnerability. And then you show your ass to everybody, and then everybody's, see, you're just as much of an idiot as I knew you always were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've heard somebody related to like why when you see a picture of a statue of a Buddha, he's always smiling. And people are like, why is Buddha always smiling? And it's because he understands that life is inherently suffering. And so when life throws you a curveball and it sucks, he's like, see, it's exactly how it's supposed to be. You know, and there's a way to that on the road. Everything is going to mess up. So when it does, you're like, yep, this is what it is.
Everything is a trauma response these days, but I did hear that laughter is a trauma response. And I was just like, I mean, come on, don't take laughter from me too, man. Like, just let
This is what I have.
let me have that one. It was working so well.
But again, I think it's like a reference to experience of your body learns. Maybe if I put so much weight on this experience and I think this is it, I'm devastated when it doesn't go as I think it's going to. Then when you live long enough and do enough that you see like, oh, the world didn't end when that didn't go as I hoped. Or
exactly,
my career didn't end when I thought it was for sure over. There's just this belief that builds of, oh, you can recover. And then the weight kind of lessens on everything.
Yeah, you can wake up the next morning and still be in your body and you're still here. And I hope it's not the last time I do TV. I don't know if it will be. I just like to think that it's not the end of the book. It's just a chapter, and there's so much more to all of it.
I wanted to talk a little bit about your journey, because before we do these podcasts, I always do a little bit of research, just basically Wikipedia and Googling and stuff.
God, not Wikipedia.
Wikipedia is always interesting because you can't trust it, but it's just, these are what random strangers think is important about this person. It's like a little bit of a weird, inaccurate resume. So you went to Berkeley, but then you dropped out of Berkeley because your career started. Is that correct?
Nothing had happened yet at that point. Okay. I just was tired of working full-time as a bartender and school costing so much and like not being super into it.
So then you started putting out music and working as a musician. Is that correct?
I think I had a record's worth of songs at that point and kept my bartending job and playing out in New York at the Bitter End or the Living Room once a month. My friends and I would drive down and we'd either play an open mic or we'd have like a scheduled show. But I just routinely went down there once a month. I think I was just giving myself some sort of checklist of like, you're putting yourself out there, right? You're doing what you should be doing, right? I had dropped out of Berkeley when I was around 20, doing that kind of thing once a month since I was like 19. Taking like the Chinatown bus from South Station down to New York and getting off of Chinatown and walking on my van thing over the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
It's a little side note, because we lived in New York. I would take the bus the opposite direction and take that to Boston. And there was one time we were going up and it like took forever. And we were in Framingham or something, like right when you first started to get into like outskirts city of Boston. Yeah. And the bus kept trying to take an exit and everybody on the bus was like, no, keep going. Like he thought we were there. It was like suburbs. And it got to the point where the bus driver's like, this exit? And everybody's like, no.
If you caught the last bus home, there was always the chance that the bus would only have one working headlight and you'd be going like 40 miles an hour for 6 hours back to Boston riding the fucking rumble strip. So you really tried not to make that last bus. Like you really tried to make like 11. Not like 1 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. But yeah, from that point, I met my first manager, just complete happenstance. Like she was seeing another artist that was playing after me, but came early, caught my set, ran up to me, gave me her business card. And then I signed a really bad publishing deal that was deeply and contractually and soul binding that almost ruined my life. And the rest is history. It's been so glamorous ever since then. My friend Steven and I actually do talk a lot about, because Steven went to Berkeley for all of, I think, 6 months or something like that. And we both talk about like the many instances in our careers where we've been like, oh my God, you're like so lucky that you have my phone number because I'm about to be like literally unreachable. Enjoy it now. This is it.
That's what I was getting to, that I feel like from what I was gathering is that like from a young age, there have been multiple moments where it's starting or it's about to happen.
My whole entire career, I feel like, has been like a cacophony of almost.
Yeah.
Just a genuine, like.
I love that.
Which is very super fortunate. And at this point, somehow we've all stuck around for long enough that like some of our friends are running these major companies and we're still here. And like we'll all find ourselves as fly on the walls in these awkward industry moments. And just there are these islands of respite and like these relationships that I've kept with some of these people. And I feel really lucky to have actually built the community that we have and the career that I have. I do actually call me fucking crazy, which is probably absolutely also true. But I do think there's something sustainable here for me.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, of what has been your source of handling the disappointment and like continuing on. Because when I think of you, I always think of just what keeps you going when you've been knocked down so many times, Maddie.
Jesus, how are you still here?
How have you not given up on yourself? No,
man,
but
it's funny. I was just thinking about this too, because I feel like I'm trying not to get super turned off by like social media's obsession with resilience and insecurity and vulnerability. This storyline, I just used to really hate this part of myself. And here I am showing it to all of you. And it's a big deal to show each other these parts of ourselves. It feels like I'm flashing everyone. But you know what I mean? It's a really beautiful thing. I don't always love that like part of my storyline is you're just so resilient. Part of your thing is that you're just so scrappy and punky and that you can start the car with some baling twine and some duct tape and a book of matches. I'm like, I don't love that about myself. I would like to just have a car that works. That would be awesome.
Yeah, but I do think it is inspiring to be someone who doesn't give up, that it's not giving your power to other people. And I teach a lot of like songwriters, and I always have examples of people who are like, look at them and look at them. And especially for women and age and all of that shit, as much as it might be annoying, you're an inspiring example, because I vividly remember sitting on your couch maybe 5 years ago and you saying to me, I might just have to accept that it is not in the cards for me, that I am not going to have a solo career. Do you remember that day?
That actually kills me.
I know. And I've thought about this. And at that time, I had just signed a record deal and had put out my record Desert Dove and was starting to tour. I was feeling really good about myself. And I was like, things are going great. And you were feeling, I just made this record. I can't get a deal. I can't get a booking agent. And you said to me, I might just have to accept this. And then I remember you also said, I'm so glad it's going well out there for you, Michaela, because it does give me hope that it's out there for me as well. And look at what the fuck has happened in the last few years. If you had just taken that day and been like, this is how I feel right now and I'm going to accept it and go away, it's astounding what has happened in the past few years for you, because you didn't. And so that's not a dig of, man, you really had bad shit happen to you. Because I feel that way too. Of I haven't had a blow up career, but I have a career, and I feel like you could easily be like, damn, Michaela, you've had some hard luck. Like,
man,
but I'm still here.
And that's it. Just being able to have a career. And I bought the home that I live in. And that's not small to me as a single woman in the music industry. You know, even the way that I tour, it's not because I think it's cool that I can go out as a duo. It's out of point blank necessity that I tour the way that I tour with my best friend of 20 plus years who knows how to play drums and bass at the same time because I made him do it one time. And then just the way finances worked out, it has become the necessity. And I'm lucky that I can continue to guilt trip him into doing 2 jobs. It's funny because my mantra used to be like, I want to be able to pay my friends what they're worth. And I've had to start including in my mantra, I really want to also be able to pay me what I'm worth. I really also want to make what I'm worth, because just paying the people around you is obviously not sustainable. I wasn't able to take care of myself. And that was really starting to take a toll, when it comes down to it. If the writer isn't healthy, if you're not healthy, Aaron, if you're not healthy, like there is no product and no one has a fucking job, which is one of the reasons why over the break, I need to be more involved in the politics of songwriters and copyright. And we all should be, because we're the backbone. How did this one slide by everybody? This is crazy.
Yeah. I just want to take a second to point out in everything that you just said, like so many almost and so many starts and stops in your career, but like the fact that you did that and had the resilience to keep going. And then with that, had the wherewithal and the strength to be like, I need to pay myself what I'm worth. Not like, man, I must not be worth that much because nothing has happened yet, is like an incredible strength. That's like
Thank you.
An asset that isn't really all that common. I think it's very easy to be like, well, if I was worth something or if my art was worth something, it would have happened by now. So to have that self-assuredness and belief in your art, to me, is a signifier of success that I try to instill in myself. It's not something that comes naturally to me necessarily. I just want to point that out in everything that we've been talking about. Like, that's rad.
Thank you. Are you guys being so nice to me because I'm leaving tomorrow? I'm just kidding. And now get back out there, kid.
We'll talk to you in January. Yeah.
But also like not in a bitter way of like you made adjustments to prioritize different things, where in a business that really emphasizes exploiting artists to think that we should be the last ones to get paid. How many times I've gone on tour and taken a band or done a promo thing and lost money and gone out of pocket because everyone around me, like a label or a manager, has said, it's really important. You should have the full band in this. This is an opportunity. And like, well, who's paying for it? Oh, me? Okay. Not the gig. And I just rack up debt.
Because it's art.
Exactly.
Like you're charities for some reason.
Yeah. Versus making different business decisions for yourself and being like, you know what? I'm going to believe in myself that I am the anchor of this, whether there's 4 people around me on stage or 1 person or just myself, and believe that will be enough, because I need to also make sure I'm taken care of and not go bankrupt making these decisions because I think it's going to pay me down the line, which maybe it never will. So how do I show up for these moments and be a smart business person that values myself and also maybe pays the one person a little better than spreading myself thin on having 5 people in the band? That's just the economics of the touring industry that I think a lot of people overlook. I am impressed when I see more people being like, I can't bring a band. I used to go into debt all the time to bring a band. And now because we have a child, I'm like, I can't. And I think that actually has more positive impact in your life that maybe isn't as quantifiable, but I'm making money somehow because I'm not taking a 5-piece band for everything. We still put on a good show, but something energetically happens when you get to a place where you're just like, no, I'm not in a place of deprivation anymore. Or like, no, I'm good with making these decisions for what's best for me and not what I'm told I need to do to convince the business and the industry to value me.
I mean, I've been in therapy for like 5-6 years. And to be totally frank, I don't know if I would be in the place that I am if I didn't have someone alongside of me processing every failure just as much as every success, and every success just as much as every failure, and then every like nothing, you know what I mean? Every small moment or a medium moment or thing happening or nothing happening. I was just talking about it with my therapist this morning. Tour takes a lot to adjust to. Home takes a lot to adjust to. Being in the creative space takes a lot to adjust to. Being in a vacation space takes a lot to adjust to. Like, and everything is moving so quickly. And it just, like finding moments and like finding ways to check in with myself and make sure that I'm just not operating out of a deficit has been how I've been able to maintain any small sense of sanity that I'm holding on to very loosely right now. I actually got literally this tattoo. It's hands that are just doing this. And my high school best friend drew it, my friend Megan. And it was just after Delta smashed my fucking guitar after I had just gotten to Dublin. It was like at the start of this tour that meant so much to me. Kacey and I have become close. She asked me to open these shows for her, the first shows of the Deeper Well album. an album that means so much to her, an album that means so much to me, and feeling like this big moment coming and then starting this tour limping on some level was really hard. I've just needed to constantly remind myself to hold things joyfully, loosely. When they fall into my hands, I'm like, oh my God, you're in my hands. Okay, see you later. Just accept and release and catch if it's meant to be caught and let go if it's meant to be let go. So much of the music industry opportunity is met with this anxiety of, I have to do this right. If I don't do this, I'm going to miss this thing. And that means I'm not going to get to where I need to go. That's just the dumbest, most exhausting way to operate. And it's just not true.
Yeah.
Which is the crazy thing. I feel like I have to constantly remind myself that, or even just give myself opportunities to prove that. For instance, a couple years ago at this point, when I was just starting out again, A History of a Feeling had just been released. I was like on tour with Waxahatchee, which was like one of the most dreamy tour experiences that I've ever been on. And at the end of the tour, we were trying to figure out what was next, because that's always a scramble. And if you're only as good as like your last gig or whatever that bullshit is, I'm like, I got a call that we had just gotten this tour offer from this artist, and like the money was good and like the markets were good, but like the music made me want to die. And I was just like, I really want to test myself to like continue to make choices that I can tell like when I'm rung like a bell with joy. When I got asked to go out on the road with Waxahatchee, I was like, yes, like absolutely, holy shit. And there was no way I was going to say no. And we've become friends, and like, she's the best and her music is incredible. I want to be surrounded with art and friends and people like that. And that tour offer was not that. I ended up saying no, and my no was met with okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, woof, that feels not great. But it's this funny push-pull of trust with management and your own inner peace and your own vision for the thing and the shared vision of the thing. And it ended up, both of us were like, totally, no was the thing to say. And then a week later, I got a phone call that Harry Styles wanted me to come open these shows for him right around the same time that I would have been out with this other person, or on the heels of this other tour, in which case I would have been totally exhausted and drained and maybe not even financially capable of doing whatever that was without substantial help from like a label or whatever, So I don't know. I'm not saying that for every no, there is a fucking dope gift from a pop star. That's definitely not been my experience either. But I think that just riding the wave and trying to like maintain some sort of inner peace, whatever.
There's something to be said about really paying attention to when is like a hell yes. If it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell
it's
no.
A no.
There's a lot to be said about that, because we're standing in the middle of these vast, desolate salt flats where we can kind of walk wherever we want. It's like, am I going the right direction? Wait, should I be going this direction? And there's these little signposts, like you're saying, they might be very apparent, like a massive pop star being like, I want you to open these shows. Or they might be something small where it's a friend that asks you to co-headline these shows, or something that rings you like a bell, and you're like, I'm going to do this.
Or even have a value system that the best use of time is only a big opportunity of making money and being in front of people, where maybe you said no to that tour and Harry Styles never came along, and what you really benefited from was being home and you got to write some more songs.
Or maybe I wrote
go to
the
therapy.
Song.
Yeah, exactly. But it's always still operating in this idea that the thing that should be the priority is the big opportunity that's success. I'm saying this also because I'm trying to retrain my brain. Like we were talking to Lily Hyatt on this podcast and talking about like 2020 and the pandemic. And I was like, 2020, I was scheduled to be on tour all year and had festivals booked. A lot of them I haven't been able to get back. It was supposed to be the best year. And then as we were talking, Lily was talking about like all of the positive things that came to her in her personal life through that break, falling in love with her husband and like nurturing home. And I was like, whoa, maybe 2020 was the best year of my life. I was like, I hung out with friends. I reconnected with people. We went camping. Like we had so much fun. Like we went on this epic mountain biking trip. I got pregnant. I'm like, it's so fucked up that I don't think of those things as the best or as exciting as, but I was supposed to be conquering my music career. That was supposed to be the best. It's still...
How do you add those other things to a spreadsheet, though?
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny that we're taught to only accept success in very specific forms, instead of just being like, So if I'm like an individual person and like I'm so special and I'm so different and everybody's so special and different, like of course my fucking version of success is going to look completely unlike anybody else's. This is like a major discussion that I'm mostly having it with myself, to be totally honest. I'm having it mostly with myself, but I'm also having it with my manager and people that are in my creative circle, because I'm working on my next record and I'm going like, what is the blueprint of the thing? What is the single cell, the O2 version of what my artist thing is? And that's scary when you're trying to sell it to like a business and people. It is funny to me, and this is the cool thing about social media, is that I do think that social media completely hacks the fact that like business usually stands in the way of direct art to consumer. I think the conversation that I'm trying to have with myself and with my management and my team is, so the most important thing is the song. The song has always been the most important thing. The song is the backbone of this entire thing. And so how do we like distill that and like get the purest raw meat version of the song?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like, you know, not with the weird stuff in it, just at like a ingestible song meat temperature.
Are you meaning like in terms of like how you
This is why I'm talking to myself a lot.
Yeah.
Are you meaning in terms of how you record it, or like how you shape your life to be able to get the song?
Both of those things. I think like being cerebral or like being thinky about music can get in the way. You know what I mean? Like, how am I my most self? How am I not myself? Where am I most my natural self? I'm just like making sure that you stay in as many like fucking environments that just allow you to be you and not think about it. Whether that's on a record or whether that's in a writing space, whether that's, oh God, now I have to buy this tape recorder because I'm going to be talking to myself a lot around my house. If I am just talking out loud, then maybe I'm not going to be like filtering things the way that I normally would if I'm like sitting in front of a piece of paper going like, what's the best next word to write down? Are you guys just nodding and I sound completely psychotic?
My head is running too. No, what I was stuck on was like the idea of putting yourself in environments that will allow you to create the art that you feel is inside you, where you know there's another album brewing, can't put your finger on it just yet, but it's like, okay, how do I put myself in a situation where this will come out, whatever this is? We were talking to early on to BJ Barham, who is American Aquarium. And he's like, I related to in my younger days, going out with a pan and like hoping to catch some rain. Now I can tell when there's a rainstorm coming and I'm like, cool. All right. And you set up the situation to get caught in the rain, basically.
Yeah, that's so good. I think for me, the thing that I'm trying to unpack, God, I hate these words that are just the most normalized therapy speak. It's just killing me. The thing that I'm trying to address about my process is that I need to push myself in the pool before I'm ready. And then like while I'm swimming, I figure out where I'm going to swim to. I think that's become part of the process for me.
So since History of a Feeling came out, you've put out another record and you've been on tour a lot and you've been like on the track of working and promoting and all that stuff. Before History of a Feeling, at least the couple years leading up, when we met you, you were here. And you weren't really touring that much and you were just writing constantly and living. So like, how are you balancing now being in like the cycles to then create enough actual time and also space emotionally and energetically to continue writing in the depths? Or is that like not really an issue for you? Does it just always happen?
I think that's something that I'm still learning how to navigate, is the balance, and to like catch the energy in the bottle when I have it, point it in the right direction when I have it. And I will say I'm so fucking grateful that whatever shift that happened on tour has started to happen on tour, so that I come home and I'm like, man, I'm so grateful for this audience. I'm so grateful that they like whatever it is that I'm saying on my record. My story is their story. I'm so excited that there's somewhere for it to go, and it just makes me want to continue. That's been weirdly like motivating and energizing. And that's one of the reasons why it's been so on my mind to like figure out what this next record is, because I don't know, man, the planet is hot and like life is short. And like I've been very alone recently, and it's been like very nice and energizing. And I'm also like, what do I do with all of this energy? It's nice to point it back at myself as opposed to like aiming it at the next door neighbor or.
That idea of like focusing energy, I love that concept. Okay, so we all have this X amount of energy and it can go 1,000 different directions, which it generally has to do on tour anyway. And like you said, like transitioning back to being home or on vacation or whatever is like the hard transition, whatever it is, different situations. And so like being able to be home and keep that focus on yourself, what you're doing, you're taking all that same amount of energy instead of it being like dissipated. It's very focused, and that beam of energy or whatever, you can get much more mileage out of it.
This is going to sound totally pathetic, but like, I think that like on some level, I get home and I'm like, oh my God, it's just me. This is so boring. And then I start to focus on the music part or like the songwriting part as if I'm focusing on a relationship, or like I've been putting the same amount of energy that I would normally put in like my romantic relationships. And this is like always the point in my process or my life where like I would just date whatever person is there, they are. And then I'm like, you're the most important thing and you're the center of my universe. And then I get wrapped up in the center of the universe. And then in 2 years, it goes sideways anyway. So I'm trying out this new thing where I'm just going to be perpetually on tour until I grow old and die. Just kidding.
You'll create space for that when you're ready.
Yeah. I think I might buy a horse. And Kacey's like, me too.
Yeah, sounds lovely.
I think that's good. I think I love horses. Yeah.
But I do think, I mean, we've talked about this, all the different facets of our life and trying to recognize, and I mean, you wrote a song about it too, of like, you can't have everything all at once, all the time. I mean, I hear that all the time, and I still have this little voice in my head that's like, but could I? But really, could I try to have everything all at the same time? I do think you can, but what having it all looks like is different than what you probably initially thought what having it all looked like. I have a family, and I'm really grateful for that. And that then lessens my capacity and my time and energy to put into other aspects of my life. I cannot have the social life that I had before I had a child.
Yeah.
I cannot tour the way that I did. I also don't want to, but I can still have a career and I can still have friendships. Everything just looks different. So it's like understanding and having grace if you're like in a career centered momentum, being like, that's great for right now. There's all these different phases of our lives and it's going to look different. And Maddie, you've reminded me of that. I remember like when Georgia was maybe like 4 or 5 months old that I was having a hard day and Aaron was like, go have a drink.
He's like, goodbye.
He was like, text Maddie and Leah or somebody. And I remember texting you guys and we went out for happy hour. And I remember you said, because this was right when like shit was really starting to roll for you. And you said to me like, you got to remember, Michaela, there's aspects of your life and your pace of your career that I covet, that look really beautiful to me that I don't have. I'm putting all my energy right here because this is what's going on. And you might be looking at Maddie being like, God, I wish I could be doing that, but I can't right now. But you forget that there's also things about your life that are beautiful, of like starting a family. And again, it's the value system that we're like, wait, oh yeah, we can't do everything all at once, all at the same time. And like respecting those phases of our life wherever they're at.
Well, and it's gorgeous that you have experienced music and touring on the level that you have, and you have this full family life, and you get to share this podcast with your husband. And meanwhile, I'm like killing a cactus in my living room, and there's like a small oak tree that has invaded my front yard that I need to like replant in the backyard. But like, on the other tip, I got to spend some like really good quality time with my dad the other week that we haven't gotten in many, many years. And like, yes, that took away from some of my precious home time, but like, we have to do the things that are going to feed us in these moments.
You put so much into your songs and your music, and you're in a time where you're really seeing a response for that. And you're building your equity in your creative work. You're building all of the foundation of wanting to be able to be a songwriter for the rest of your life, where you're doing great work. And so again, it's not one thing is better than the other. It's always trying to remind ourselves, okay, maybe this is what's rolling in my life right now, and I really would love this other thing to roll too, but maybe that's going to happen a little later. Or maybe when it does happen, it's going to look different. And like really trying to value what we've got going on right now.
I'm not trying to point this back at any of my songs, but like I am constantly telling myself, nothing is a waste of time. Nothing is.
Yeah.
Every fucking vacation, every standstill traffic stop. Oh God, I cannot believe that guy just rear-ended me. You know, I was at that bar too late hanging out with the blah, or like, oh my God, we're about to go on tour for another 3 weeks. Like none of it is at all time wasted. It's absolutely been crucial in every step that I've been able to take.
Yeah.
Every painful step.
Yeah.
My pre-arthritic step.
I love that viewpoint. Usually, like in a moment of self-loathing, where I'm like, fuck, every decision I've made in my life has led to this moment here.
I fucked up.
Yeah. You're like, no, this is good. This is good. This is good.
Yeah. But I mean, like, what you were saying to me is like the optimistic side of that. You've said multiple times in this conversation, like the gratitude side of that. One thing leads to the next. Whether the way you look at life is that it's a story that you're living out, whether you look at it as it's a path that you're walking, whether you look at it like deep in some kind of like quantum physics field where there's multiple realities happening at once, subconsciously choosing that reality. It's like, there is no waste of time.
Gratitude doesn't always feel good. Being thankful doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it's like literally the fucking hardest, most painful. You have to choose gratitude sometimes. You don't just wake up and go, thank you. And I absolutely, there are some days where I wake up and I look out the window and it's like green and beautiful. And I'm like, oh, thank you, house. And thank you, tree. And thank you, window. But I don't always wake up with fucking like good night moon running through my veins. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially talking about, and you've said this in a few different ways, throwing yourself into a pool and being like, fuck, how do I get out of here? Like having a hard situation that happens without choice, something shitty that happened to you, having gratitude for that situation can be really hard. But like those situations that I've experienced like that have made me who I am and like made me grow so much. Like these horrible situations that absolutely sucked to live through and experience, but like I learned way more from that than like a nice sunny day where I wake up and I'm like, I love my house. I'm so lucky.
How boring is it when it's just, you can predict, you know exactly what you're going to get. So like everything is so safe and you're making like, there's no juice to that life, you know?
Exactly.
I think of my 20s and I'm like, what happened in my 20s? Not much. That was just like, I was just hanging out. And my 30s, I'm like, holy shit, so much has happened. And I've spent a lot of time the last couple of years wishing all these darker, painful things that happened in my life hadn't happened. And I don't know if it's honestly being on antidepressants or like being in therapy, that everything feels okay right now. Like that my mom is feeling more like my mom again after her stroke. I just am in a place where I genuinely feel thankful for the really dark, heavy, disappointing, heartbreaking stuff that's happened in my life the last 10 years, because I feel good about who I am right now and like feel like, oh, okay, there's like some deep understanding that I did not have. And I don't think I would have had if everything just went well. We think of gratitude and we think of like, I'm grateful for my beautiful this and my beautiful this. And it's like, no, actually, I'm really grateful that I had the experience of sitting and watching my mom in a coma for 3 weeks. And like, do I wish she didn't have a stroke? 100%. But I actually feel grateful and understand that hard stuff is essential to personal growth.
It's crazy that, what is it, the darkest before the dawn
Before
or
the
whatever?
dawn.
Yeah, that's just the truest. It just is proven over and over again, but you don't know that the light is coming when you're sitting in the fucking dark. And that's the hard part.
For sure. To me, this conversation has completely come full circle now, because like we talked about this at the beginning with whether it's things with your ears or your pedal on stage, or it's like the, oh, I'm about to blow up. It's going to happen. And then it doesn't. When all that happens for the first time, you're like, fuck, I'm done. This is it. And then like, you make it through and you're like, oh, okay. It kind of like defangs it a little bit. You know, and eventually you get to a point, like once you've experienced those valleys, you understand like this sucks and it's going to suck, but it'll be fine.
Now you have the fucking muscle to walk out of the valley because you've been building muscle the whole time.
There it is.
Muscular.
There it is, you songwriter.
I'm going to walk out the
Wow, Maddie put out a gospel record. Who would have thought?
I'm gonna bicep cut my way through the darkness into the light.
That's your new record. There you go.
Is.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll take 20% each and call it good.
Easy. Honestly, I think that's a 33. That is just a full.
Love it.
All right. Yeah.
There it
Even
is.
splits. Who gets the point 4?
I'll take it. It's fine. I'll take it.
He's the man. He's the man.
Yeah, there it is. 2024.
That's funny. With people I write with a lot in 3 ways, I usually end up being the one that is registering. I will say, for the record, I passed the 0.4 around. I'm like, man, I put it on the last one. I'm going to give it to them. I don't always take it.
That's really nice. You're like,
Good
always.
job, Aaron.
You know? Now that
Honestly,
we're living in a...
if I'm registering that fucking song, I'm taking that 0.4 as service fee. That's what I'm doing.
It is
like,
most certainly
and
worth
service tax. That is correct.
Maybe that's why I'm at where I'm at. You know?
That looming 0.4 is really making the divot in the bank account. Yeah.
Generosity.
Yeah. See what Spotify does to this industry? That 100th of a %.
Oh man, well, I'm sweating because our AC is off, but also because we've been laughing so much.
Yeah. Thank you
Me
for
too.
making time to sit with us.
Yeah, I love you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Love you both.
Bye.
Bye.
Love you too.
See ya.
Bye.
Hey, real quick before we wrap up today's episode, it takes a lot to produce even a small show like ours, so if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider taking a minute to check out our Patreon. There's a lot happening over there, all with the intent of growing our community and offering you more resources to navigate a career based on your art more sustainably. You can learn more at the link in the show notes below. Thanks for being here with us, and we'll catch you next time on the Other 22 Hours podcast.